All right. I don't know if anyone can hear me. It would be good to know. Oh,
I can hear you.
okay, well, that's good to know. How are we doing?
Hi, Mike.
Hello. Let's figure out who that is. Ah, that's probably who it is.
Hey, Mike. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good, good.
One brave person turns on their video. That's the rest are shy. I know.
Hello.
Oh, there we
How's
go.
it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. I sent you guys my presentation because I'm not able to get Zoom on my Zoom is not working on my laptop. So I'm on my phone, but if you guys could just hit play on my little slideshow, that'd be great.
Yes. Rod, do you have, can you share with me?
Yes, I did.
You did what? It's in the chat.
It's in the chat box.
Okay, let me see if I can find the link. Where is chat? I don't know, I haven't found it yet. There we go. And I just wish I had the link to the, crap.
I shared it in your WhatsApp, Michael.
It's okay.
Good. I might be
Actually,
able to.
eventually I'll get to where I can get the link. So that doesn't look like it.
But let me see. I didn't think about trying to see if I could do if I've got Outlook or I'm sorry, PowerPoint. Oh, I can do it on my phone.
All right.
Might look a little wonky, but tell me and let me
I mean, we do have the, I was finally able to find the link, so.
Oh, okay.
I have a little bigger screen than you do.
Okay, yeah, then that's probably gonna be better.
All right, but it's up to you.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. Does it look something like that?
Let's see.
Can you see my screen?
That's it.
That's good. Right, and I think it says we're recording.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna assume that's true.
I think it is.
I don't know how many people registered, but I didn't have a chance to sign in to find
It's
that out.
51.
51. All right, there we go. So we'll see how many people are planning to be in the real estate in 2024. Maybe that's only 51, right? The rest are not, huh? So, Jody, did you want to start off? Tell them who you are, what you do, why it matters, and kick us off.
Sure. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time to be on this call here. I'm going to have just a brief little presentation, just some brief info about next year's some changes in lending. And then, of course, more on Tuesday when we have our event. So my name is Jody Hatano. I'm a loan officer here licensed in California. I've been in mortgage since 2006. So I've seen it all, along with a lot of you who's seen more chaos in the market than what we've experienced here just in the last year and a half or so. I think that no matter what happens in the real estate market, I think that it's always a good time to buy if you can afford it. And that's what I tell everybody that I talk to when they ask me what I think is going on or what do I think is going to happen next year and things like that. And I say, well, rates are what they are. There's nothing that, we can do to change the entire rate environment. There's things we can do to get lower rates, but regardless of rate, if you can afford the payment, you can afford the down payment, and you can afford it, then it's always a good time to buy real estate. So I'll just get started. I've got just a few slides here. Would like to leave it up at the end for some questions. I'm sure you guys have some. And then a couple of slides in, Mike, I'll have a quick poll. I've not done one before, so if you can just shoot that out there for me when I tell you it's going to be in red, I'll show you what, when we get there, because I've got a question for you guys. All right, so going to give you a quick market update. What's in store for 2024, really how it pertains to loan limits and minimum down payment. That's what's most important going into 2024. So let's just jump right in. I'll start with some mortgage data. If you want to hit next. Or a slide, thank you. That's a true slideshow. So the MBA released their mortgage application data, and they're talking about basically interest rates. Interest rates did go down recently, about 1/4 point. Now, that doesn't mean that every rate for every loan, for every product went down 1/4 point. Just in general, what they do is look at the whole entire country. Basically stick with conforming. So this is not really non-conforming. So conforming loan amounts that went down. ARM loan rates are coming down. So we're seeing some improvement in the market. Let's see, we've got increase in loans for refinances. So, we talk about interest rates being so high, but yet we've got increased by 14% interest refinance applications. Well, why is that? So we all talk about how, well, nobody's going to sell or do anything with a mortgage if they're at 3%. But actually, that's not quite accurate, and I'll tell you why. A lot of people, millions really, over the last couple of years, because of inflation, have had to take out consumer debt to be able to pay their bills, make ends meet. That's credit cards, maybe personal loans, other forms of credit that they've used. And yeah, they might be sitting on a 3% interest rate for their property, and that's amazing. But if their outgoing monthly budget has, increased because of taking out, credit, then they can be overextended. So what we're seeing a lot of are cash out refinances, where yes, the ones might be at 3%, and maybe they're going to go to 7.5%. But if that, helps their cash flow by a few $100s a month, or maybe even more, depending on how much debt they have, then they're doing it, because it's still better than paying, 18, 19, 20, 30% interest rate, even at 7%. It's not we don't love doing that, but if it's going to help someone keep their home and put them in a better position financially, then it's definitely a good thing to do. They can always refinance again when rates go back down. Okay. So if you've got anybody out there that is saying, well, I can't afford to buy in this environment because I've got so much debt or whatever, then let's talk about maybe refinancing them like where they're at right now, help them save some money. The more money they save from making interest payments, the more money they can save for down payment for early buying season next year. So let's not look at just what's happening right now, this week or today. Let's think about it, Q1 of 2024. How do we get your clients ready to buy or sell in Q1 of 2024? And the time to act is now, and take a look at their financial situation and see what can be done to get them in a better spot for spring. If you'll slide down just one more there, Mike. So the employment report that ADP puts out is important. Jobs reports is very important right now. It's really impacting what the Fed is feeling about where inflation is. And while we don't want anyone to lose their job or not have a job, what the economy needs is, a bad jobs report. So basically in November, we did have a decline in the jobs report, lower than expected, which had a positive impact in the Fed's eyes to how inflation is, getting more under control. So what I wanted to point out here in this slide is if you look at June of this year compared to November of this year, you can see there's a drastic, $350,000 or $350,000, 350,000 in the difference between, and this is the private sector, of course, in jobs created in June versus November. So the Fed likes that. Okay. So that's why we've seen a little bit of a decrease in interest rates here over the last couple of weeks. What I want to point out is, and a lot of what I spend my time doing all day is talking about interest rate. Every time someone calls me to pre-approve or to just talk about, possibilities of buying, they want to know the rate. They want to know the rate. They want to know the rate. And it's going to be in the 6s or even 7s. That's just where it is. There's nothing that we can do about it except try to talk about, okay, right, rates are what, 3 to 4% higher than we want them to be. That doesn't matter really what we want, right? I mean, I want them to be 2%, but that's not sustainable. But they're about a couple of points higher, I think, than where a normal interest rate environment is pre-COVID. But if we look here at where I've circled red, this is the annual pay increases as of this year for people that stay at their jobs. Annual pay increase average is 5.6%. When they leave their jobs to go to another job, then they experience an average of 8.3% increase in their wages. Why is that important? Well, it helps offset the higher payment for the higher interest rate, right? So in a perfect world, we could have high wages, low rates, and everybody does well. But unfortunately, that's not a perfect world. So we have to work with what we've got. So when you hear someone talk about, well, I can't afford to buy right now, rates are too high, this might be something you want to mention. Well, tell me this: did you happen to get a pay raise this year? Have your wages gone up? It helps get them out of the rate talk and into a full financial picture talk, right? And what our responsibility is to help them understand the full picture, not just one aspect of it. So when they say, well, yeah, I mean, I got a bonus, or I got, my hourly went up, X amount of dollars, or this or that. Well, let's talk about what that means dollar amount. Why don't we have Jody, you have a chat with Jody. She can analyze it for you and show you what it actually would have looked like if you bought, at 4.5% with the income you had in that time to where rates are, say 6.5%, 7%, and what your wages are right now. Because I think people get really stuck on, headlines in the media. And when it's just high rates, high rates, high rates, then that's all they think about. They don't think about anything a little bit deeper. So just keep that in the back of your mind, talking points when you're in front of people that talk about, you're trying to maybe get a new client or something to buy or sell, and they mention that, then you can bring this up. This is data from ADP. So feel free to look it up yourself, take a picture of this. I'm fine with you guys sending this out as well, Mike, if you want. And okay, then put this in your pocket and talk about it whenever you run into someone that has an objection with interest rate. Okay, next slide, please. So the question I get all the time, and I'm sure you guys do as well. Will rates go down? Do you know when rates are going to go down? Do you think they'll go down? When are they going to go down? So here are the predictions from, and I pulled, it was almost pointless to even put it on here, from Freddie, Fannie, Wells Fargo puts this out, Mortgage Banker Association. There's just such a range that you've got some agencies, they're like, oh, we're going to stay the same. And then some, they're like, no, we're going to be in the 5s, and some that say we're going to be in the 6s. Mortgage Banker Association has us at the end of 2024 on a 30-year fix around 6.1%. Fannie Mae is saying we're going to be 7.375%-ish. I didn't put that on there. My apologies. But basically saying we're going to be where we are right now. So Fannie Mae is predicting no interest rate decrease in the entire year of 2024. And then we've got the Mortgage Banker Association dropping us, 125 basis points. So will rates go down? Nobody knows. So that's what I've started saying. I mean, I can predict, I can look at past years when inflation is under control, then interest rates always go down when we've had high inflation. But, nobody knows, right? So the point is, when someone asks you that, you say, that's a great question, but nobody actually knows. If we were to look at what all these agencies predicted would happen in 2023, they will all be wrong. So when someone asks that, again, I'm trying to help you guys with talking points on it, because I feel like the rate environment is the biggest obstacle that we encounter when we're talking with people. So what do you say to a client that gives you an objection about buying or selling based on interest rate? That's the poll question, Mike. If you could put that out there, we'll give people time to answer it. I'll go over these four.
It says that there are no polls or quizzes created. There are none. So
Right. Okay. Well, if maybe people can just answer it in the chat box. No worries.
Yeah.
If you guys can just a couple of sentence or so. What do you say when you approach someone or they approach you and ask about the market, and they say, well, rates are high, so I'm just going to wait? What do you say to them? What's your comeback? So while you're typing that in, and I really would appreciate if you guys would help me out here, because I'm interested to know what you're hearing in your world. I'll tell you the 4 strategies that I've incorporated that help them overcome that objection. So number 1 is using temporary buy downs. And if you know what that is, great, you can tune me out for a couple of seconds. If you don't know what that is, what it means is, instead of a permanent buy down where it's just a basic, let's say 7% today cost a point, 7.5% cost nothing, 0 points. If you wanted to do a permanent buy down, then you would just pay 1 point and go down to 7%. And it's done. That money's spent. If you refinance it, 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road, the money you spent to buy that rate down is gone. You do not get that back. A temporary buy down is different. What it does is allows the seller, agent, or lender, anybody can contribute to this. We'd really like to see the seller contribute to it. So it's a true benefit to the buyer. And of course, I don't want people coming after your guys' commission. But so what that means is for example, we have a 2/1 buy down. And feel free to Google. You'll find out all the same information on it if you don't know about it. But what it means is, okay, for the first 2 years, the borrower is going to pay 2% interest rate lower than what they start out at. For example, if we start at 7% and we have put them on a temporary buy down, for the first 12 months of their loan, they will pay interest at 5%. The next 12 months, year number 2, they'll pay interest at 6%. Year number 3, they'll pay interest at 7%. How is that done? What happens is there's a cost to it, of course. So what we do is I price it out. Let's say that buy down is costing $20,000. Then what we do is at closing, that money is put aside into an escrow account. And every month, that borrower's payment from the 5% for the first year versus the 7% that they actually have, the difference in payment is supplemented by that money. It's put into an escrow account. Borrower can't touch it. Nobody can touch it. It's just sent directly to the borrower's lender to supplement their payment. So it helps them ease into housing payment with at least the first couple of years, much lower than market rate. Now, what's the benefit between a temporary and a permanent? The benefit with a temporary, it comes into play considering where we are in the environment right now with interest rates, considering we're probably going to be refinancing people that bought, spring of 2022 through 2024, probably refinance them in 2025, if not maybe even in 2024, depending on where rates go. So if we refinance them and that money is sitting there, but not all of it's been used, the borrower gets that back as a form of principal reduction from their loan, which is amazing, right? So it's not money wasted. It's not money spent already. Permanent buy down is spent, can't get it back. Temporary buy down, they can get it back. Principal reduction helps them, cash flow wise for the first 12 months, and could be 24 months, but I think we'll probably refinance them before then. But it's a great way to overcome objections. Oh, okay, well, if the rate is 7 and you're worried about that, how about I help you get a rate at 5? Okay, does that sound good? That's well below market rate, and it's much more inexpensive than doing a permanent buy down. And then, of course, you have them call me, and then I can explain how it works, and I can give them the actual, amount that it would cost. I've done a few of these recently, and people love it. It's amazing. It does have a significant impact in their cash flow, and it is the difference maker for a lot of people in making a decision to go ahead and buy now versus waiting for rates to come down, things like that. If your borrower, or I'm sorry, your client, my borrower, is more fiscally conservative, adverse to risk, and they say, no, I want a 30-year fix, and I don't want to even have to think about what the market's going to do, then they can do a permanent buy down if that fits their, budget. They can do a permanent buy down, and then they're sitting at a lower rate, for the life of the loan. If they can refinance, fine, even better. But if they don't, or they can't, for example, maybe someone knows that, I'm going to take this loan here, and in 5 years, I'm probably going to move, maybe rent this out. I don't want to sell. There's lots of reasons people would choose a permanent versus a temporary, but temporaries are seeing a lot of success right now. Another strategy that I would incorporate is you can have your client call me. I can do a soft pull on their credit so that it does not impact their credit score. We can get them ready for the spring buying season. I can see what their credit score is now. Say they've got a 640. And then I look at their credit, and maybe they've maxed out some credit cards. What I would do then is say, well, go to myfico.com or Credit Karma. Credit Karma is great, but myfico.com is more accurate. And let's do some score simulators. If you pay off this card, this card, this card, do the score simulator and tell me what your mortgage score is. And what do we need to do to get you to, say, 680 or even 720? How long will it take to get there? Because you're going to get much better pricing that way, much better interest rate with a higher credit score. Preparation is key. I can prepare a cost of waiting analysis for them. So if they say, well, I don't want to buy right now, interest rates at 7%, I'm going to wait till it's at 5%. Okay, that's fine. But let me give you some data that will give you the information that if you do wait, this is what you stand to lose in equity. And that is important because, again, it speaks to something a lot more detailed than just where interest rates are right now, right? We're giving them more information to help them make a better financial decision. Okay. Can we check the chat box? I'm interested to see if we've got some answers here. Okay. Yep. Marry the house, date the rate, Rachel. I say that probably 15 times a day. You can always refinance in the future, but home prices continue to rise. That is exactly right, Robert. There's no bubble that's going to happen, huh? People still talk about it, but there's not. Home values continue to increase. Morali, rates are high. That is the reason you at least have a bargaining edge now. When rates are better, you'll have to put 50 to 100,000 more than the asking because of competition. I definitely agree with that. There's less buyers right now because there's fear out there because of interest rates. So if you can get your buyer to understand that, we can do the cost of waiting analysis, talk about temporary buy downs to help them understand, what if the numbers work out to this, for example. All right, if you buy now at this percentage rate, this home price, okay, you're paying maybe $6,000-7,000 more next year for the next 12 months or something than where we were pre-pandemic, normal levels. Well, 6,000, and let's say times 2, 12,000, 2 years. That's still a lot cheaper than what you just said, Morali, about 50,000 to 100,000 more, because now you've got competition, because now buyers have flooded the market. Now you've got 20 offers on the table, and it's going to take 6 months to even find something that you can get. So that's a great strategy. I like that. Fred, I think they are negotiating. There are negotiating opportunities with the sellers due to current rates. Sellers are more motivated, and the pricing of certain homes have declined. Yes, there are some pockets in the Bay Area, especially where we have seen some prices go down. Some areas in San Francisco, but for the most part, yes, sellers are motivated. And Fred, if you can sell that to the seller to offer a buy down up front. Now, what is that going to do? So say you're a listing agent. I don't know if you are, Fred, but anybody out there who's a listing agent, you're about to take a listing. call me, let me know what the sales price is of the home or the list price. I'll run some numbers, give you an idea of what a approximate buy down would cost. Let's say it's about 20,000. When you're talking to your seller, how can we turn the 20,000 that you're going to offer up front to any buyer? How can we turn that into 40,000 for you, or make it a wash? Well, when you offer that up front, then you're incentivizing buyers. Now you're going to have more buyers, right? So you've opened up the pool a little bit. Wow, we don't even have to negotiate. Seller's already offering a $20,000 buy down. I know what that's going to do to my payment. I'm fine with it. I can offer a little bit higher purchase price because for the next 2 years, I'm going to have a lower payment than I normally would, right? So now maybe you're going to get a little bit higher purchase price, even though the seller's offering the 20,000 approximate buy down. Now that, please don't keep 20 in your mind because it varies. It depends on the loan amount, loan type, credit score, and things like that. But yes, I like that. Okay. So,
One comment, I'm sure that the entire group already knows this, but you can search in the MLS for listings where a buy down is offered. Did you guys?
oh, wow, that's nice.
That's
I
a
didn't know
field.
that.
That's assuming the listing agent was smart enough to check the box. So if you're the
Right.
listing, we should talk, right? But you should check the box in the MLS if you're doing that so that you can be found.
There you go. Good idea. Okay, so we'll go to the next slide. So what we're going to talk about now are the loan limit changes for 2024. And of course, I love this. I get excited about it every year because what it means is, again, more buyers, the pool of buyers have opened because you've got a higher loan amount with a less down payment. As we've seen in the last part of this year, lots of lenders have gone in their jumbo market. They've gone, from 10% down to 20% down to 25% down, because there's no appetite for jumbo loans right now. You'll even find loan officers that maybe closed 100, 150 million in the last 3 years, and they've trying to find a job or having a hard time because lenders do not want jumbo business. They want agency business. So the loan limits changing next year, I think, are going to create a lot more volume for agency business. Especially, I know where I live in Oakland, we are a high balance community. $800,000-$900,000 sales prices. But anyway, let's get into it. So what's happening for 2024? Standard loan limits. Now, this is not for high cost areas like the Bay Area or Southern California. This is going to be just for your standard counties out there, more rural. 1 unit home is $766,550. What this means for all of these loan amounts is minimum 3% down. So you can put someone in a home, at $800,000 at 3% down. That's pretty spectacular. 5% down even if you want. 2 unit homes going up to $981,500, 3 to $1.186,350, and a 4 unit $1.474,400. Going down to the loan limits for high cost or high balance. I say high cost, but I mean high balance. The higher cost properties and counties. So Santa Clara, Alameda, for example, that has gone up. So right now it's $1,089,300. It's going up January 1st to $1,149,825. So almost $1,150,000 is your conforming 3 to 5% down loans. Previously, this is a jumbo loan, and you're putting 20% down, 30% down. You've got to have 18 months reserves, things like this. This loan amount going up this high for a single family home, condo, townhouse, whatever, just meaning 1 unit, is spectacular. I mean, you could put someone in at one point, a little over 1.2 million and put, 5% down with no reserves required for the most part, depending on credit score. Maybe Fannie Mae might want a couple of months, but for the most part, it's no reserves required. 2 unit has gone to 1.472,250, a 3 unit 1.779,525, and a 4 unit 2.211,600. What's beautiful about that, and this is for the baseline conforming and the high balance, is that as of 2024, 2 to 4 unit properties on conforming loans instead of 15% down, has gone to 5% down. That is phenomenal. Normally, if someone's a little bit, they don't have 15% down, but they want to buy, say, a duplex, live in one side, rent out the other. Normally, that's an FHA loan. It's only 3.5% down. Because 15% down, as you can see, that you're talking, it could even be up to a couple $100,000. So that's opening up the pool of buyers that maybe don't want an FHA loan because it's so expensive, can qualify for conforming, conventional. This is amazing. So get out there, talk about this. Remember your intent to occupy is 12 months. You want to buy a duplex, live in one side, rent out the other. Fannie Mae says you need to occupy that property for 12 months. Month 13, you want to go buy another one, live in it, occupy it, 5% down. Talking about building an amazing real estate portfolio with the least amount of cash possible. But that's the market we're going to be in 2024. So put that feather in your cap and try to use it as much as possible when you're talking with people, especially first-time home buyers. I get a lot of calls about people wanting to buy duplexes, live in one, rent in the other. And I think it's a great idea, especially with this 5% down changing. Previously it was 15. FHA is still going to be at 3.5. Okay. That's what I have for now. Let's see the clock there, but I think it's a little after 1 o'clock. Do we have any questions or anything in the chat box here?
Yes. Can you see the screen?
Yes. Let's see. Colleen, get out of the buyer game by now to ensure ownership. Refinance. That's great strategy. I love that. You also have a question. Does a buy down downgrade buyer's effectiveness in a multi-offer situation? It could, but it also depends on what does the seller want to net. So a question that I would pose to the listing agent is, and of course, I know they're not going to give you every bit of information, but go ahead and give them a call and say, hey, what do you think about this? Would your seller be open to it? If it's a $20,000 buy down, would that impact what your seller is going to net if we offer $20,000 more on the purchase price? You have a conversation with the listing agent to see if it's a property that maybe 3 disclosures have been downloaded, you might have a better chance. If it's a property that's 20 is downloaded, I think it's an important call to the listing agent. But we are seeing success with this, so don't be deterred, or don't not try, at least up front. I'm not suggesting you have to put it in every offer, but as much as I talk about this, agents are still very worried that if they put it in the offer, it's not going to get accepted. And valid concern, no doubt. But I think that's why it's important to have another call or have a call with a listing agent. I'm happy to talk with a listing agent and just give them a quick little spiel about what it is, what it means if they don't know. But of course, if a seller has it already advertised, then you should be fine. They only have to live it for 1 year. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, Judy, this is Colleen.
Hi.
Hi, real quick. I just wanted to find out in regards to the buy down, if it's a temporary, does this secure, to the listing agent, does this say this is a done deal? Or is there anything that gives an advantage to a buyer that would need to have a buy down? Thank you.
Oh, thank you for the question. I want to make sure I understand it correctly. So when you say done deal, what do you mean by that?
You know how sometimes nowadays what happens is the appraisal comes in lower, and so people have to bring money, or different things are happening. I'm in the Bay Area. I'm at the coast and also in the peninsula, and so the house will be priced, but the appraisal will come in a little bit different. Things are down about 1-2%. If it's a buy down, if you do this type of a loan, does it give any security? Is it a done deal, or would it still incur the same obstacles that a regular loan would have?
It still has to appraise.
Yeah, it
Okay.
still has to appraise. Yeah. There's no doubt there. It has to appraise.
So it has the same obstacles, but it also has one more on top of that. I just want to make sure I understand best so I can speak to my clients about it.
Sure. Yeah. And I'm just trying to understand when you say obstacle, and done deal. I just want to understand what you mean by it. So I don't think I'm
Well,
clear
let's say
yet.
the competition, okay, let's do this scenario real quick.
Okay.
Let's say if it's a cash offer, that's the competition, we know what's probably gonna happen. But if it's a loan, okay, the competition on a multi-offer situation is a loan, and those people, are pre-approved at a a certain amount. Would someone doing a buy down, at a small amount, would it be advantageous for the seller to look at this against someone that, is doing a regular loan? Or is it just, as I say, one more obstacle
I
that
see what
they
you're saying.
might want to? Thank you.
Understood. Thank you for clarifying that. Perfect. Yes, now I understand. So, what I would say to that is, what's the sales price? What's the offer amount? Because that's what the seller is going to look at. What's the offer amount? If you've got a cash buyer at say 1 million, okay, and then you've got a buyer with a loan at $1,025,000 or $1,030,000 with a $20,000 buy down, that's still going to net the seller a little bit more. So as far as closing as quickly as cash, I mean, we can do 15-day closes. That's fine. Would a seller take an extra 5 days for a loan to go through that's already been underwritten, that's just waiting on appraisal, insurance, HOA info, if applicable? Would a seller wait another 5 days for a few $1,000s more? I mean, for the most part, I think they would. So I would focus on what is the offer amount. So then compared to what's the seller going to net?
So you're saying what the bottom line would be, the net to the seller?
Right. Because ultimately that's what the seller cares about.
Let me say something if I could, all right? If you're a listing agent and you're a seller and you're looking at offers, what you're comparing is number one, net. It's not really price, but net. Number two is certainty. How solid is it? How likely is it to close? And number three are contingency terms. And it's looking at all three of those different factors that the seller should be weighing when they make an offer. So all cash is usually quick and certain, but then the price isn't always, the net isn't as good, right? Some other loans, the net is better, but then it's a lot more iffy because they've got inspection contingencies and a bunch of other contingencies that the other one doesn't have. So it's the whole package that the seller is going to look at, and this is a factor. But other things, less contingencies and a certainty in the fact that you can close, but you might get it anyhow.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a great marketing tool. I mean, when I say I've got pushback from agents that are afraid to ask for buy downs, I think that it's something that we need to explore more. It's an incredible benefit to your client, my borrower, incredible financial benefit to them. And it can help them overcome the fear of the interest rate environment we're in. Of course, I will say they have to qualify at the note rate, the standard rate. So we do not put a temporary buy down on a loan to help someone qualify. That's not a possibility. So if the qualifying rate is 7%, even though they're going to get a temporary buy down at 5% for the first year, then 6% for the next, they have to qualify at 7%. So this is not anything that should worry a seller that, oh, wow, they don't qualify, like they have to have a temporary buy down to afford the house. Oh, that is scary and stuff, but that is not how it works. You will hear people say that it is, okay? Because I've seen loan officers on TikTok and stuff. So, to help them, it does not happen that way. It's hard and fast rules. So, no, we don't do it that way. And that's true for all lenders. Okay, let's see. Angelica, they only have to live in it for a year. Yes. So, when a borrower signs all of the paperwork, they're signing an intent. This is for owner occupied, of course. If you've got investment property purchased, then that's, of course, they obviously don't have to occupy it. But for owner occupied, yes, they sign an intent to occupy for the first at least 12 months of the loan. Now, what happens 6 months if they get transferred from their job out of California to Nevada? Well, nobody's going to come by and say, hey, that's, we're taking this house back. It doesn't happen that way. I mean, you have to commit mortgage the F word to have a problem there. So, there's still flexibility. Now, what we don't want to see is someone buy a duplex, live in it 6 months, and go buy another duplex, live in it 6 months, and buy another. That's not going to fly. And of course, that's going to be able to be analyzed, just from simple credit pool. For the most part, people are not, they have those kind of intentions and stuff. But I think that it's a great way to help your client build more wealth in real estate with less money out of their pocket. And if you can secure a repeat customer, if not every 12 months, maybe they do it every 18 months or every 24 months or something. I mean, I think that's amazing. Colleen, yes. Okay. And Letitia, yes. So, okay, perfect. So we answered that question. Does anybody have any other question so far? I don't see any.
Are there any parameters for investors that are different that we should be aware of if we're speaking to an investor client or a client that we've worked, previous client that maybe wants to start investing with this buy down? Is that an option for them or no?
That's a great question. I'll have to see if, I don't think buy downs are not allowed on investment property loans. This is only for owner occupied. I'll double check that, but I'm pretty sure that that's the guideline. So this would not really be for investors. Investors don't. Investors, yeah, it's a different type of.
You were implying for investors when you just said multi-unit properties. I wasn't sure if you were saying that this was an option for them. So it's not investable.
So when I say multi-unit properties, I'm talking about people that are going to own or occupy one of the units for at least 12 months. Then
Gotcha.
after 12 months, 13 months, they can rent out the side they lived in and it becomes investment property for them. Does that make sense?
Got it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. My pleasure. See, do we see another?
Owner occupied doesn't mean one unit. We lost you there, Jody. I can't hear you. It says you're muted.
There. Sorry about that.
I didn't do it.
Right. You can own or occupy a 4-unit property. As long as you live in that one unit at least for 12 months, then it's considered owner occupancy.
All right. So next Tuesday, isn't that what it says? See you on Tuesday?
See you Tuesday.
All right, we're doing, you've all received an invite for this, but we're doing a live presentation at the Santa Clara County Association of Realtors. I'm doing a business planning clinic. Jody will be there, as well as Margaret Faraday of Fidelity National Home Warranty. It will be broadcast, zoomed, recorded, all that other kind of stuff if you can't make it, but it's about getting a business plan for 2024 together. So be there, or be square, I don't know, something like that. One of the things, I'm going to talk a little bit if that's all right. One of the things, there is more in your folder. Right. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about other things that we expect to see, in the future, which is always dangerous, predicting the future. Right. If I could predict the future, then, well, I don't know what I'd do, because that would be predicting the future. But one of the things that we might want to look at is, where are we now? And so I put together this report, and I'm going to be doing a session relatively soon on the integration of artificial intelligence into the real estate business in a more, let's just say, practical way. And to show you what I did to generate that document is, I started by going through the multiple listing service. You can see I obviously have no social life and a lot of free time. But I went through the multiple listing service and I picked a group of counties, some of which you'll be familiar with, the Bay Area counties, Sacramento, LA, Orange, and San Diego, the big dogs down in Southern California. If your county isn't among the group, sorry, but I had to cut it off. And then I use a formula to calculate the difference in the percent, and I pasted it in. I have videos on how I did this. So I ended up with that, right? That spreadsheet. And then I had ChatGPT. This requires the fourth, level and, the paid version and some plugins. I had it read the numbers and summarize them into different categories. That's all. And so it broke it down into some different, let me see, here's the breakdown by county and building type. I probably should have inserted whatever. Why am I doing this now? I don't know, but I can't stop myself. All right. So it analyzed, and what this was looking at is through November of 2023, compared all the way back to 2022, what's happened. Some of this we already know. There's a noticeable decrease in sales. That's I broke it down into single-family condos and townhomes, and you'll see that the market sometimes is different depending on which of those three building types we're talking about. An example was that Santa Clara County, this is year to date through November. So the sales numbers are year to date through November. Sales in Santa Clara County decreased 22%. Right? That's just the reality, right? Year to date. The prices is mixed. Some areas it's going down, and other areas it's been going up. For example, Alameda County, it decreased 8%. And I have all the numbers for all the counties. And when I do the class on how to do this, if you're having difficulty, we could work out, I could help you, put it together. If you wanted to run something similar that you could use in your marketing, that's where we're going to go. Months of inventory, which is generally the way we determine if something is a buyer's market or a seller's market. If you Google search what is a buyer's market, they'll tell you 6 months of inventory is normal. I've been in the real estate business in the Silicon Valley area for a long time. I can remember 1 year, 2008, when it hit 6%, which would be considered normal. It's never that 6 months. It's never that much in the Bay Area. So a seller's market is really 2 to 3 months, something like that, just because things move so quickly. There's an example that in San Mateo County, it increased from 2.6 to 4.0 months, which is showing something of a buyer's market for condominiums in San Mateo. The overall market is cooling. Why didn't I do that? Let me do this. I'll use this. And so I asked it, where is it a seller's market? And so what it's doing is it's looking at, this is where I wanted the page break. It's looking at the different counties and the different building types to see how many months of inventory they have. You can see in Santa Clara County, townhomes are hot, right? There's less than 1 month of inventory, but 2 and almost 2.5 months of inventory when you're looking at condos. And that's because townhomes are generally bigger and you could have Zoom rooms. You can see Alameda County, we could, come up with the overall number, but this is for November of 2023. It shows that condominiums, again, are several times, there's a lot more inventory, let's just say. San Mateo County, again, you see the difference. The condominium market isn't doing as well. Asking me about my, Fremont condo. San Francisco, we have condos and townhomes are way up there, but notice single-family homes are still in the months of inventory range that would be considered a seller's market. We have transactions going on often in San Francisco, and it's not like it's the belief that this is some hellscape that nobody wants to live in and that sort of thing. Doesn't appear to be the case. So Contra Costa County, notice these numbers are a bit higher as you move away from Silicon Valley and Northern California. Sacramento, which is also on the list of those areas projected to have an increase next year, right? That's coming up. But you can see generally their months of inventory are longer than Silicon Valley. If you don't do business outside of Silicon Valley, you may not know how different our market is in Silicon Valley. It's far more intense than Southern California. There's some areas in San Diego that are pretty intense too, but then it's just well, look at the big dog, LA County. 5.8 months of inventory for townhomes, 8.3 months of inventory for single family homes, and almost 9 months for condominiums. Compare that to even to Sacramento and the Bay Area, you can see the market is extremely different. Orange County is stronger. San Diego, again, the months of inventory, look at that for single family homes is almost 11 months. Right, that's definitely a buyer's market. So I summarized it a little bit. This is something, if you're a real estate agent and you're talking to a potential buyer or a seller, it would help the conversation a lot if you knew what was going on in the market. I'm just throwing that out there. And to know that within every market, different zip codes act differently. We're trying to buy a house in Carlsbad last year. It was tough. I mean, multiple offers. We're offering no contingencies. You know, it just went up to 1.5 to 1.8 to 1. It was a tough market. Now, San Diego County overall wasn't doing as well, but that particular area was. So within this, there are a bunch of micro markets, right? The Blossom Valley versus Almaden in in our area. Prices. So what's happened, right? I'm sure you guys are paying attention and reading the MLS and doing this kind of stuff every day. So you already know in your county whether or not prices are going up or down, don't you? You know that. So single family homes in Santa Clara County went down a teensy bit, 1%. Alameda County, 8%, San Mateo, 5%. San Francisco had one of the biggest decreases, 14%, in the median price of a single family home. There's an argument to be made that looking at median and average prices doesn't tell us very much. There's an argument, right? So if the median price goes up or down, does that mean the value of homes go down? The answer is not necessarily. Median means the one in the middle. So if there are fewer sales of high-end properties, then the median goes down, right? But that doesn't mean that the properties that were around the median before have gone down. It just means that the ones we were comparing it to, there's fewer of them above us, right? Does everybody see that? My video is unhappy. Let me do this again. All right, how about that one? All right, all right, so this is something that you ought to be looking at on a regular basis. You ought to know, and many agents look at this every day, is the inventory going up or down in your area? Are prices going up or down? Are the number of transactions that fell through going up or down? Are there expired listings in the area? Are there price decreases? That's something that you ought to focus on. So anyhow, there's statistics for a variety of counties, and I'm going to teach the ChatGPT, and there's some other artificial intelligence programs to read, like the PDFs you get from your board of realtors. Have you seen them that have all the different areas and all the different stuff? You know, and some agents do screenshots and post it on social media like anyone's going to read it, right? People don't want to see the data, right? That's not what most people want, right? Engineers, I know, don't, you know, just, I understand it's different. I understand. But most people don't want to see the data. They just want to know, is it going up or down, right? You know, is it getting better or worse, harder? They just want to know. Some other thoughts that I put together on what's happening in 2024, and there are different markets that are supposed to rebound more than others. One of the examples that's typically mentioned is Southern California. Also, when they drill into California, Sacramento are both areas that they project to have an increase. Overall, nationwide home sales are expected to increase by 5%. Mortgage rates, Jody's already talked about that. There's a wide range of predictions. I actually saw somebody that was saying it could go under 4. You know, I that would be nice. That would be nice, but we really don't know. Not a lot of people predicted the current rate drop 3 or 4 months ago. I'm just, you know, so it's sort of hard to know for sure. What about prices? Again, if you're reading real estate related media, and by the way, one of the I like Google stuff, right? I have a Google phone, and you know, I'm all into Google stuff, and I like it that when I read certain articles in Google News, Google starts sending me more articles. And if I read them and I share them, they send me more articles about real estate or whatever it is. So I get lots of information. But some of the price predictions, Fannie Mae thinks that prices are going to go up about 3%. Realtor.com thinks they're going to go down. You know, it's all over the place. Zillow thinks that the mortgage rates, this is where I heard that could be as low as 3.4, but I don't know what they were smoking when they said that, but that would be wonderful. Zillow thinks that prices are going to go down. You see, it's up, some say down. We really don't know, but the consensus of the predictions are that prices are going to go up. Right, and there's some more about what the projections are of increase of interest rates. So in most areas, we can expect prices to rise, and we can expect interest rates to go down. What that's going to do to the market is not certain, but likely to result in more inventory. So if prices go up and interest rates go down, which increases the buyer pool, then it might make more sellers want to put their homes on the market because they can now buy something themselves and save, you know, and be able to afford, you know, the second leg of their purchase. Prices are going to go up. If interest rates go down, that might increase the amount of inventory, which would increase the number of overall sales, which have been down, and that would make it really good for the real estate business. Just saying. Economic indicators. One of the other things that I just wanted to mention a little bit, and I'm going to be doing another long workshop. I think it's called a master class, or call it a clinic or something that doesn't sound too awful. But it's going to be on how to work effectively with buyers in the sense of how to conduct a proper buyer consultation. And what we would be doing, and some of you probably can already see the value of this, I would have Jody on a Zoom call, if possible, where the buyers and me and her were all talking to each other, because she's going to be a lot better at explaining the loan options than I am. I'm just saying, right? And so that's something you might want to think about, because what the impact of all this litigation and all the stuff they're talking about buyers representation is probably going to end up where we have to be more purposeful in the conversations that we have with buyers, and we may need a better system, right? And the commissions are what, you know, the lawsuits were on. Now, I just want to say first, it ain't over, right? Those lawsuits that you may have heard about are being appealed. There are other states where they're, you know, starting the different lawsuits. They're probably all going to be combined into one big one and settled once and for all, the group. There are some ways in which we can avoid what they're trying to do. The reason why the National Association of Realtors was named as a defendant in the lawsuit is because the associations, the local association, the state associations are all part of the national association. They oftentimes own or control the local MLS. So a judgment against NAR would filter down to your MLS. But it's possible for us to separate the ownership of the MLS from the Association of Realtors. In many markets, that's already happened. And in the ones where it hasn't happened, it's probably going to happen. So you can sue the NAR all you want. We don't care. We're not, we're not part of them, right? And if you're following the news, you'll see that there are real estate companies that are disassociating themselves from the National Association of Realtors because of this. In California, there's a increased challenge because they're the ones who write our forms. That's not true in all states, right? Not all states have an association written forms. That function might need to be, sublet out or something like that. Increasing competition may be a result. Changing, let me just say this. So what the lawyers still want, is to eliminate buyer's agents from being paid a commission through the MLS. That's what they want. And their arguments, I don't think really make a lot of sense, because their argument is that if buyer's agents weren't paid a commission, prices would go down. Sellers do not price their property based upon the buyer's agent commission. Sellers price the property based upon how much the last one like theirs sold for, and then they add to it. They don't care. I mean, that's not involved in the valuation of the property. Appraisers don't ask, how much commission did you get? So we can adjust the price. It isn't an issue, right? So prices are unlikely to go down just because they're not paying a buyer's agent a commission. So how would a buyer's agent get a commission? Remember, in a credit, like a buy down credit, there could be a credit that the seller would pay towards the buyer's agent commission. And you could ask. Right now, it is legal for a seller to say, I don't want to pay a buyer's agent a commission. I don't want you to give them anything. I'm willing to pay you a commission, but I'm going to pay anybody else any money. That's legal now, but almost never done, because there's a lot of reasons, right? There are a lot of reasons, right? Why that's not done. Because you want to get more buyers, but it might end up affecting the amount of commission. And buyer's agents might have to become more articulate at explaining why a buyer would want to work with them. I'm just throwing that out there. All right. But what I want to do is to go through a system that you could use, and there'll be, practicing scripts and things like that for working with buyers under potentially the new regime, and getting a commitment from them and using the forms and all that. Those are my thoughts about what's going to happen. Interest rates should go down, prices should go up. Those two things should increase inventory. Increased inventory means increased sales. Now is a good time to be talking to people. If you're an agent thinking, well, I'm going to wait until spring when the market picks up, and then, those people may have already talked to another agent. So now is the time to prepare for that. I'm also going to be doing, as I mentioned, a session on the use of artificial intelligence, and just in terms of marketing and social media in particular, as well as analyzing and coming up with information that you could share. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing. This is an example of what the different things that we're seeing happening with artificial intelligence. I spend way too much time doing stuff like that, but it's going to make our systems a lot easier and smoother. Let's see, did you mention that chat created the verbiage for you? 10 offer, the market seems almost home specific. ChatGPT created a lot of the verbiage. That's true. I have it for, you know, lots of different things. Let's say writing a lot of different things. The decreases for November stats, yes, price decreasings in the statistics was November versus the last November. All right, it was year over year. The sales statistics were year to date, right? So for 2023 through November, those were the sales statistics. Prices November, you know, I can't average 6 months. I have to go for my next call. Okay, Jody. So go. And yeah, commission issues. Let me talk about something before. Am I too late? 2 minutes, right? 2 minutes, and then we'll be. First of all, a comment about buyers. They're much more likely to negotiate buy downs and credits from sellers now than later. If later interest rates go down and that increases the demand, resulting in multiple offers, then that's going to make it less likely that you're going to get concessions from the seller, because concessions from a seller typically only happen when they don't have multiple offers, right? If the more offers they have, the fewer concessions they have to make. So now would be a time to do that. That's one of the things I want to make sure that we focus. People should act, because they can refinance later, but some of the conditions that are right now are likely to change. And I always ask people, what would you rather do? Have a lower interest rate now or pay $100,000 more than the list price, which in our market is something that they're likely to do. I'm not going to get into all the changes. That it's possible that the commission structure, particularly in Silicon Valley, there's things that go on in Silicon Valley that do not happen in most of the state of California. Just what that thing is buyers getting rebates from their buyer's agent to buy a house. Now, if you're in Silicon Valley, you might think, well, everybody does it. I've heard people say, well, everybody does this. I have a large team in California, and I'm telling you, outside of Silicon Valley, it virtually never happens. Never happens. And the result, I mean, some of it has to do with the prices in Silicon Valley, but the result is that listing agents are starting to think, well, if the buyer's agent's going to give half of their money to the buyer, obviously we're giving the buyer agent too much money. Why should we pay them that much commission then? They're not even going to keep it. They're going to give it away. So why doesn't the seller just keep it and not give it to the buyer's agent? Does everybody see where I'm going with this? And if we get to a market where there's more listings where there isn't an offer to pay the buyer a commission, all of that's going to go away, right? Getting your credit back assumes that the buyer is getting a large commission. But if the buyer's agent is what I mean, if the buyer's agent is not getting a large commission, then the buyer is going to have difficulty getting their hands on any of that money. Some of those things are going to likely be affected as a result of this change that might be coming, right? I'm just saying. But right now, this has been a recent change. I can put a listing in the MLS and say nothing is how much the buyer's agent's going to get. It's syndicated, goes to Zillow, goes out, it just says 0. That means if you're the buyer's agent, you're going to have a conversation with your buyer such that you're going to get paid somehow on those transactions. And the most logical way is not to ask the buyer to kick in another $20,000, $30,000, but to get a credit from the seller to cover your commission. And again, now it's easier to do that than it might be if the seller has 10 offers. You know, they're going to go with the one with the best net, assuming the terms and conditions and things like that are similar. Any questions about that? I'm just giving you some of my.
Yeah, Michael, I thought that they changed that 5 or 6 years ago, that we could not as agents participate in giving credits back because we could not be a participant of the I'm sorry, let me say this properly. We could not financially be a participant of the sale. You know, the commission come to us through escrow, but that we could not, in essence, leverage or influence the sale.
So the rule that you're referring to is a rule that says that a buyer's agent is not allowed in a residential purchase agreement or other purchase agreement to attempt to change the amount of commission that's in the multiple listing service or otherwise agreed. You can't, if it says in the MLS 2.5%, you can't sneak a line in the RPA that says buyer's agent to get 10. Take it or you can't do that. That's a violation of the code of ethics. And they'll come out and talk to you, if you-
Michael, I credited back my commission when my daughter and her son-in-law purchased a home. And it was just a gift I wanted to give to them. I understood that was about 12 years ago. I understood that that is no longer.
It happens all the time. I mean, I'm talking every week, every day, we're doing it.
Thank you. I got that information.
This is in Silicon Valley, and within particular communities, let me say, it's a common everyday practice. And there's no rule against it. It's not a violation of RESPA, the Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act. They've already ruled, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, that giving a credit to a buyer is not illegal because it has the effect of lowering the closing costs of the buyer. Right? The RESPA says that real estate agents can't split commissions with people that are not other real estate agents. But they've said there's an exception to that, and the exception is if it's a client. So this is something the lender will see. In fact, one of the issues is that you can, and this is in the residential purchase agreement, there's a paragraph on limits to the lender of the buyer's credit. And the lenders have rules about how much credit a buyer can get. And typically, you can only use the credit towards non-recurring closing costs, which, by the way, a buy down is. Right? Jody didn't talk about this, God bless her, but the other way of doing a buy down is instead of giving the buyer a credit of your commission you could use it for a buy down, right? The credit that is given to the buyer could be used for that. But if the buyer is if you tell the buyer, I'm going to give you $25,000 credit, and the lender says you only got $22,000 in non-recurring closing costs, it says in the purchase agreement they lose the other three. That there will be no price reduction, no adjustment in terms, they just don't get it. So you can only use the credit up to the amount that the lender allows. Different counties have different customary who pays what. So in Alameda County, which is a buyer pay county, the buyer can use a bigger credit than Santa Clara County, which is a seller pay county, and they don't have as many closing costs. But that credit can't be used for down payment, and it can't be used to reduce the price without trickery. Which I don't want to explain when I'm being recorded. All right. Way too much time. Yeah. All right. Was that good? Was that helpful for everyone? Oops. I don't know.
Yes, glad we got to touch on that.
All right. We're going to talk about how to improve your relationship with buyers and how to, which is certainly possible. All right. So that's it. Next week, we're going to be doing how to, create a business plan for next year. You gotta go. You've all been sent links to it. If you're in the Santa Clara County area, you can come to the Association of Realtors. Be sure to, register. There will be a high quality box lunch. Vegetarian options will be provided, and there's no cost involved. If you're doing it from home, order a box lunch from Togo's. That's where we're getting ours, and you can join us. Oh. All right, that's it. Cool. Talk to you later. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.